Welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm Krysta Gibson, your host, and this is an online television program that is dedicated to helping us ground our spirituality into our everyday lives. And today's guest is going to talk about a way that we can do that, something that we all face pretty much all the time in our lives, and that's the topic of relationships. Now, my guest has written over 45 books and video programs that they've sold over 2 million copies, wrap your brain around 2 million, and has been translated into 26 different languages. So he is the founder of the Life of Learning Foundation in Merlin, Oregon, and he just has a plethora of videos and live classes, and he's just an amazing teacher. And I'm talking about Guy Finley, who is the author of The Secret of Letting Go. But as I said, he's written 45 other books. This particular one now, he has turned to the topic of relationships, and the book is called Relationship Magic. And in it, he gives us a really better understanding of what our different relationships are all about. And he gives very practical stories and advice and steps that we can use in a lot of different situations that we might have. And I'm not just talking about intimate relationships, but it can be work relationships, your family members, your pets, pretty much anybody. I mean, we have relationships of all different kinds. And the book gives so many different ideas and understandings that can help us with all of those. So let's go talk to Guy for a few minutes, and let's see what kind of insight he can give us on this whole topic of relationships. Welcome, everyone, and I'd like to welcome Guy Finley to the show. How are you today, Guy?
I'm great, Krysta. Nice to be with you.
Same here. So I've told our viewers all about, well, not all your background because it's quite lengthy, but about your background and your new book. And so what I'd like to ask you just first off is, how did you decide, of all the things you've written, how did you decide to write a book on relationships at this point?
Well, let's see if I can be short and sweet. All of my works are about, in the end, developing the parts of us that make it possible for us to be aligned with what is timeless and celestial in nature, divine by origin. And I wanted, with this book, to try and bring everything that I've worked to understand and communicate over these many years now into something that we could all put right into action in our day-to-day relationships. I mean, it's lovely to talk about being an instrument of the light and loving kindness and the Christ within and all that, but when it all comes down to it, what good is any of that if I'm rude to the waiter in the restaurant, or I get angry at somebody who cuts me off on the freeway, or to the point, my partner pushes that button and off I go.
Isn't it true?
So this book centers on how relationships are actually mirrors, and that every one of our relationships is a real-time revelation of our nature that's involved in that relationship in the moment. And once we understand to some extent that everyone and every moment of our life comes into it as an act of grace for the point of helping us see parts of ourselves that have been literally dragged forward through time from our past and stand as impediments, limitations that we're unconscious of until our partner or that person pushes that button. And in that moment, we have a chance to see what has been concealed in us so that by the light of that moment, it can be healed by the intelligence showing it to us. That's the reason for the book. Down to earth, nitty gritty, let's get personal and see if we can't begin to perfect ourselves by using this light, this love that guides relationships to release us from what is limiting us in them.
So your book is full of practical examples and stories, and which I love. That's fabulous. And so let's do that right now. Let's just use an example that I think any of us can relate to. You're with your partner or your boss or whomever, and you're having let's say it's your partner, and you're having a discussion, and they say or do something that, like you said, pushes that button. And normally what we would have done is just let that take over, and whatever our response would have been, anger, whatever. How can we do that differently? What's the practical, down-to-earth way we can do that differently?
Listen, what I'm going to say next is, in fact, not just possible, but in the end, the only way that we have as men and women with our partners to begin to allow love that brought us together. We didn't create the love in us. We didn't even draw the person to us that is drawn to us, nor we to them. It all acts according to a greater set of laws. The smallest consideration proves it so. I did not bring that person into my life. Something intelligent and loving brought that person into my life so that I could discover in that relationship the very reason that love has brought us together, which is not just my perfection or just yours, but a broader relationship with something timeless and intelligent that wants us to know it exists. See, we think we know everything about love. Krysta, we don't. So to the point, as an example and why I set it up this way, when you disappoint me, is it your action that disappoints me? Or is it an expectation that I brought with me into that moment without knowing I brought it with me that is suddenly challenged by your words or your deeds? And if we understand that at all, obviously, I can't resist something about you unless you have stirred something in me that immediately resists you. Mm-hmm. So what we have in these moments of resisting our partner is an opportunity to recognize I brought with me into this moment an expectation or a demand that you be what I want you to be when I want you to be it and the way I want you to be it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, hell is going to break loose across from this dinner table.
Yes, yes.
That's how we change. Not by trying to change our partner. Futile, useless, worse than anything we can do. Right. But by using the moment with our partner as the revelation that it brings to help us see and release what has been concealed in us. Listen, is it an advantage or a limitation if I meet this conversation with you with a demand that it go exactly the way I want it to go? Mm-hmm. Advantage or limitation?
Mm-hmm. Limitation.
Absolutely limitation. Mm-hmm. The advantage is discovering the limitation that I don't know I have, that is hidden from me by blaming you for suddenly bringing a problem to the point of view. Mm-hmm. So here we get a very important idea in this book. Nothing that's concealed in us can be healed in us, period. Mm-hmm. As long as it remains concealed. This demand that you don't do what my former partner did that I'm still seething over. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm afraid of being hurt again the same way I was hurt before. Mm-hmm. It's unconscious to me. Mm-hmm. But that part has come forward as a limitation. The longer the limitation remains hidden from consciousness, the more that limitation acts to condition the change that could occur. So we have to be free of who and what we are still imagining ourselves to be if we want to come to a limitless, open-ended, loving affair with our partner or with the world itself, Krysta. Because this isn't just about male-female relationships. This is about every interaction we have with the lady checking us out at the grocery stand.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
do we get impatient?
Right. Right.
Well, is it her
How do we
fault?
use that? Right. Right.
Yeah. Is it her fault?
So how do you take that moment in the moment? How do you take that and change it? You know, is it a self-talk thing? Is it just bringing
No,
awareness
no,
to it?
no, no more talking. Holy mother of pearl, we've talked ourselves into a pit listening to something that starts talking from it.
Right.
The task is to understand that the pain I want to blame on any other person isn't the pain that I blame on them. It is our pain, not because of you. It is our pain. If I didn't have a silent insistence that I move in and out of a grocery line in 42 seconds flat, I'd be sitting there using
Right.
these parts of me that blame my captivity on you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't create this captive identity. You reveal it through your actions. Are you perfect? No way. Am I? Not a chance. But together, if we're awake and conscious, we can use each other's momentary, incomplete actions to bring about a complete understanding of how those actions are continuing that sense of pain instead of bringing an end to it through the revelation of our present nature.
Mm-hmm. And you've learned these things. Now, you've been in your marriage for over 40 years, right? So I
Yes.
wanted to bring that out, that you are not speaking from a vacuum. And obviously, you have many relationships with your students and publishers and on and on and on. But in terms of a personal relationship, you know, sometimes people who talk about relationships either haven't been in one very long or they've been in a series of them, which is a different way to learn. But I just think it's important to bring that out, that you have been in the same relationship for over 40 years.
Yeah, my best friend, partner, and lover for almost 40 years. I'm just going to turn 70 in a few months. We have never raised our voices at each other, not once, Krysta, in all of that time. And the secret of that is understanding that the moment we want to blame someone or shame someone for the negativity we feel is allowing a part of ourselves that can only blame and shame to point a finger that keeps us from perfecting ourselves as well as our relationship with the one we love. Relationships are the single greatest undiscovered resource on the surface of this earth. The more we understand that every moment is a revelation, every revelation is an invitation to release the parts of ourselves we don't know about. But there's a caveat, and I need to get this in if I have time.
Mm-hmm. You do.
Why do we jump on the bones of those people that we blame the way we do? If we could just see for a split second, it's because in the moment they enact what they enact, they elicit in us an instantaneous pain. We believe they're the source of the pain. They're not the source of the pain. They're the revelation of a pain that's living in us that by the grace of God has been shown to us if we're willing to see it in that moment. Then the concealed has a chance to be healed because it's brought into this broader awareness that allows for an integration instead of creating situations that further produce the imagined difference between us. There is no difference between us. Honest to God, there's not. Yes, your essence and qualities are such that by their nature, they're going to rub on me. That's what the jeweler's polishing stuff does. It rubs, but not to wreck, but to bring out the qualities that can't be revealed without that rubbing.
Right.
The pearl in the oyster
Yeah.
is because sand irritates the oyster. We
right.
don't know how to use the irritation
Right.
properly.
Right.
That's what my book is all about.
Right. Yes, and very well done. And I wanted to just kind of jump in here and say, because I find this interesting, is I've been with my partner for just over 30 years, so I'm only 10 years
Nice.
behind you. And I'm turning 71 in October. So I'm just, you're just a little behind me on that. So I just found that interesting, some commonality. But I also wanted to share that, because this is something I've shared with people, and I don't remember if it's in your book. I also think what's important in a relationship is that I want for you what I want for me. To go
Yes,
into
of
that
course.
relationship wanting, I want to be happy. I want to be loved. I want to be understood. You want to be happy. You want to be loved, and you want to be understood. And when I can bring that to any relationship, that to me, it just gives such a different foundation than I'm trying to get something from you. So I just wanted to put that in there.
And to put it in terms that are, let's say, a little more nitty gritty, you don't want to be hurt by me.
Right. Right.
And if I really love you, I don't want to hurt you.
Right.
But when I think you've hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all over you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, if I can understand that those moments where I believe that my pain is more important than your pain,
Mm-hmm.
we have a chance to understand it is our pain in this moment, and meeting it from that consciousness allows me to begin to make a sacrifice that only love can make.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I'm going to bear my own pain and not blame you for it.
Right. Right.
And the more I blame this, the more I refuse to blame this unconscious, knee-jerk, negative manifestation, the more I'm able to see about the nature that's producing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I see about the nature that is the absence of love, the more I'm released from its influence, and the more we are free to explore what happens when two people agree, under no circumstances will I hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
may have every rational justification in the world. And then I think to myself, wait a minute, what justifies hatred?
Right. Right.
What
Right.
justifies anger? Does love justify anger?
Mm-mm.
Never.
Mm-mm. No.
Ah, Something in me is sitting here running through all the associations, blaming you for this heartache.
Mm-hmm.
Heartache finds reasons for heartache. Love understands heartache and rises above it by releasing us from the nature that demands someone else is responsible for our pain. They are not.
And don't you think exactly what you're talking about is what we also need to apply on the larger level these days? I mean, in
Oh,
society
yeah.
and the world at large,
Oh,
the,
gosh.
the divisiveness, everything that's going on, it's like if we could get this message out there to more people, which of course you're doing by writing the book, and I'm trying to do by interviewing you, but to get
Yes.
this out there, I mean, can you address that just for a moment, even how this applies to this, what we're seeing in society today?
Everybody, as best you can, follow the bouncing ball. Can I be negative towards you in any way whatsoever, whether you are a person, a political group, some power play, whatever it may be? Can I get negative toward that without first resisting it? Can I?
No.
Or is negativity always the expression
Right.
of a resistance that precedes it?
Absolutely. Right.
So resistance always comes before negativity.
Right.
My resistance to you, or to whatever that may be, appears in the moment that I feel you have stuck me with something and it stings.
Mm-hmm.
So that pain is always the precursor. Not wanting pain is always the precursor to resisting who I blame for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You didn't put that pain in me.
Right. Right.
When I get it, finally, that the pain I don't understand is the same as the one I blame for it, I'm done with blame. If we could understand that before change is possible, this nature has to change, and that it'll never change as long as it's blaming something outside of it, then the buck stops here. I can't come at you for your political affiliation until I understand my pain that I don't understand is what is trying to change you so that you won't bug me anymore.
Right.
Then love has a chance. Love has no chance when we are divided along the lines of a nature that justifies hatred and anger. And I don't care what the past has brought. There's a beautiful quotation, I can't think of who said it, but if we want something new, we have to start new, not build on this old, decrepit, corrupt foundation, regardless how real it may be, what this group did to that group. I get it. Everybody knows this is a world filled with people, filled with pain, that don't know what to do with it other than start a war. Period.
Attack other people.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what you're saying. The exact opposite is us owning ourselves, our past, our feelings, whatever, and not be projecting them onto everybody else.
And bearing what I must bear within myself until I am free of the conflict in myself. Then I'll understand the real solution has always been what love is trying to bring about, instead of trying to bring about what I say is love, and in the name of it, and ruining everything.
Exactly. Well, our time is up. We could go on forever, I think. This is great. Thank you so much for the book. And I just wanted to mention I will be putting this on the screen so people can see it. But your website is guyfinley.org. And that's FINLEY.org. But you also have a special. Your book is coming out in October 8th, 2018. And if they visit the website relationshipmagicbook.com, they are specials that they can get for buying the book. And
the Relationship Magic Book, all one word.com. And if you go there, you get free instantaneously the audio version of the book, which I've read. I've never done that before, but I wanted to lend the intonation and the intimacy to my own writing with my own emotional content. So you get the book. When you pre-order it, you get the audio book and a couple other great books, gifts, including a webinar coming up at the end of October. And I invite everybody, look, when are we going to get down to brass tacks and do what we have to do as men and women to understand ourselves so thoroughly that we never misunderstand anyone else again?
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
God willing.
Yes. And you know, we can get there. I believe
we're on our way.
I believe in us.
Look, what we're doing right now, Krysta, while it's for us, actually isn't for us. It's for a nature that already lives in all of us, that we're just nourishing, watering, and cultivating, so that eventually this new consciousness that's intended to be our consciousness can show itself, live itself, and we can be the recipient of its presence.
And I can add nothing to that, Guy. Thank you so much for being here, and thank all of our viewers who have been watching this. Please get Guy's book, use it, learn from it, live it, and let's see what we can create in this wonderful world of ours. Thank you so much, Guy.
A delight, Krysta. Thanks so much for your support.